This is NASCAR Coast to Coast. 60 minutes of NASCAR local and regional racing talk, interviews, and opinions. Here's Kyle, Rickey, and Buddy Long.
Preece wins at Stafford and then gets a phone call that most short trackers dream of. Heckert gets it done again at the Glen, and NASCAR's oldest sanctioned racetrack hits a pretty major milestone this Saturday night. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast for Tuesday, August 11th. Kyle, Rickey, Buddy Long with you for the next hour as we talk NASCAR short track racing, and so many stories taking shape, Buddy, as we get into the late summer months. A lot of eyes on Watkins Glen, New York last Friday, the NASCAR K&N Pro Series. Not a surprise winner after what we saw a year ago, and maybe a driver closing in a challenge for this championship in Scott Heckert.
Yeah, and I think you might go back to the Iowa event just a couple weeks ago, the combo event in which Scott Heckert was second, I believe, in that race. That was a big turnaround for him because it brought him to number 2 in the standings, and I think he was about 25 points out of the lead then with the road course victory, even though William Byron had a good run at Watkins Glen. He was up there in the top 10. It's down to 14 with 4 races to go. One of those, yet another road course event in which Scott Heckert's very strong.
Coming up at VIR in a couple of weeks, I believe the lead was as large as 29.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, it has been cut in half to 14, and Scott Heckert picking up the big win last week. Dalton Sargent, J.J. Haley, the top 3, and H. Scott Motorsports sweep of the podium. Dylan Lupton and Cole Custer rounding out the top 5. The NASCAR K&N Pro Series heading to the Motorrome Speedway in Smithton, Pennsylvania this Saturday night. We will hear from Scott Heckert coming up. In fact, he'll be our in-studio guest here shortly.
Yeah, and if they were smart, somebody would bend the ear of Gary Wiltrout. We've talked about him a lot, winning so many late model races out at Motordrome. I think some of the guys may have had the opportunity to either look at the racetrack. I don't know if some even tested or they can test or not, but at least get a track that's comparable to Motordrome, since this is another fly in the ointment of the remaining races left. This is a track they haven't been to yet.
And that's coming up here this weekend. The NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, yeah, they were in action this past week as well. Not a lot of surprises at the front of the field. The 3 championship title contenders, 1, 2, 3 on the podium. Ryan Preece picking up the win over Doug Coby and Woody Pitkat. It looks like the title fight's going to come down to these 3 drivers. Have no idea which one is going to win it, though, which is going to make this fun.
Yeah, exactly. And, you could have put 4 in there prior to Stafford with Todd Zegedy, but he had a bad finish, so the Mystic Missile was dropped down in the points a little bit. But it will be between these 3, and it's funny because I think going into the event, Woody had a 3-point lead over Ryan. Now it's flip-flopped. Ryan's got a very slight advantage, not much at all, over Woody, with Doug lying in the weeds, still well within striking distance, with the opportunity to win that second consecutive championship and 3rd overall.
3 make that 4 points back. Ryan Preece ahead of Woody Pitkat. Doug Coby still right there in the 3rd spot, 17 points behind. Still very much in the championship fight. That series, little time off. They're back in action tomorrow night at the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park.
Yeah, we don't get a chance to talk much about Thompson because, again, they're not on a regular schedule in the Wheel and All-American Series, but we will talk about them a lot as the season progresses from this point on because they do have 2 tour events. Yep. They do have some Wheel and All-American short track action left, and they've had some good battles. Actually, that was a pivotal place, which kind of starts the thread that we're about to go, because Keith Rocco broke his arm, I believe, hand. He loves breaking things all the time.
His
up
wife
in the SK Mods at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, which has started a domino effect on driver changes.
His wife, Cassie, tweeted or Facebooked last week that he can never run at Thompson on July 29th again because 2 of the last 3 years he's broke something. It was his wrist, I believe 2 years ago, and then this year it was his hand in the 30-30, or what was it, the 2020 Sprint Sunoco Modified race that they had there just under 2 weeks ago. Keith continues to run at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Not going to run in the Modified Tour race the next couple of weeks. Ted Christopher will take the controls of that number 22 Chris Hauer Motorsports car beginning at Thompson tomorrow night. Will also race next week at the Bristol Motor Speedway, an event that team won a year ago.
That team has very good notes at Bristol Motor Speedway back when Tommy Barrett Jr. was there driving the car. They've had some good runs there, and they're going to be a heavy favorite. I think Mike Stefanik has also had very good luck in that machine as well. So Teddy would be a very good, legitimate contender for the Bristol title. We mentioned some other changes. Even though Teddy's not in the 13 car, it is going to be running tomorrow night at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. As defending Wheel and Southern Modified Tour champion Andy Seiss is going to stay up in the Northeast and run that event tomorrow night as well. Or Thursday night.
No, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, okay.
Wednesday night, yep.
Getting my days mixed up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Bob Caton-owned car will be there with Andy Seiss behind the wheel. I know Andy loves the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, so a good opportunity for him to get behind the wheel of a car outside of the family team, which he normally runs up in the Northeast. So it'll be interesting to see how he can do tomorrow night. And Old Blue apparently will not be at the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park tomorrow night.
Old Blue's black and blue right now.
It is, after a pretty severe wreck at the Stafford Motor Speedway last Friday night. However, Troy Tallman will be there.
He'll be in the Hill Racing Enterprises 79, a ride that we have seen a couple of different drivers in. Actually, Spencer Davis has been in it for a while, but I think he had a conflict a couple of weekends ago when he had the chance to make a debut with NTS Motorsports in the Can-Am Pro Series East. So this is a one-race deal. Hopefully Troy and Old Blue will be back together when we get set for another event, whether it's going to be Bristol or whether it's going to be a little bit further down the road in some of the remaining Northeast races. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see the three back on the tour before the year's over with.
So as you put it earlier today, musical chairs.
Yes. I just got
Speedway.
used to knowing who was in what ride after everything that happened in the offseason, and now they do this. This isn't fair.
I got to admit, I went to New Hampshire last month, my first modified tour race of the season, and I go to the 16 car expecting to see Ryan Preece.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
But you couldn't be disappointed when you saw Timmy Solomon.
No. And again, we talk about it every week here on the show, but it's just one of those things. It was the first time I was in the pits. You see that car, you think Ryan Preece. You think the two, you think Todd Zegedy. Still, and that's from a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah,
so, changes have been aplenty this year, and they're still changing it up here midway through the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour season, which continues tomorrow night at the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. I want to take a look at the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series national standings here. They're a week old, but it's getting tighter among the top four.
Yes.
We talked to Thomas Tillison Jr. on this show here for the very first time 2 or 3 weeks ago, a standout at Salinas?
Robbie?
Salinas and Flint Creek Speedway, Salinas High Bank Speedway, the two tracks in Oklahoma that fall under the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series sanction. Suddenly, he's fourth in points, only 47 points behind leader Keith Rocco, and within 10 points of the guy that we talk about all the time, especially in late model stock car racing in Virginia, and Lee Pulliam.
Yeah, Ryan Preece is right up there as well. He is 36 back of your leader, Keith Rocco, and with that broken hand, it makes you wonder. Keith has had some so-so outings in the last couple of weekends in racing, but he hasn't been in victory lane as much. Ryan obviously runs Stafford Motor Speedway. He's in a battle for the championship there with Rowan Pennick and everybody else. Runs Riverhead on a Saturday night. He's doing everything he can. You know that Lee Pulliam is. And, Thomas Tillison Jr., again, much like Doug Coby in the championship for mods, lying in the weeds back there in fourth. Two very good Oklahoma tracks that have good cart counts and has a very good shot of possibly doing some damage up here in the top three, possibly still in time to win this championship.
Car counts and points, they play a big factor into this national series. The more cars you get, as far as a full field, I believe, is 18 this year.
Right.
That's a way to get maximum points if you can win in an 18-car field. Just 16 modifieds. 16, that is, not 60. 16 modifieds at the Stafford Motor Speedway last week. Rowan Pennick won a race that saw national contenders Ryan Preece finished second, and Keith Rocco finished seventh after leading the race early. So a second-place effort for Preece, not getting the maximum points in a field that was already short. Rocco went to Waterford Speed Bowl on Saturday night. They did have a full field. 23 took the green, and he ended up, I believe, third on the podium behind Tyler Chadwick, who ended up winning. So.
And Ryan had a couple of top five runs at Riverhead Raceway on Saturday night, although they've been struggling to get to that 18 number. They started out the season very good, but it's tailed off a little bit. So even though he's doing well within the top five or getting victories or somewhat right there, he's not getting that maximum car count. Lee Pulliam, meanwhile, picking up another late model victory, I think, over the weekend at Motor Mile. He is zeroing in on that track championship, but also needing strong car counts to finish his season off in a good way.
Absolutely. So a lot of talk and discussion around the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series national standings. We'll continue that throughout the hour. But when we come back, we're going to talk about modifieds down here in the South with the promoter of Bowman Gray Stadium. Greg Garrison joins us after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up two 5 1/4-ounce bottles of Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner for $8. Clean and lubricate your fuel system while increasing miles per gallon with 2 bottles of Lucas Fuel Injector Cleaner for $8 at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
It's a crazy place. It's easy to get lost out there.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
Wonder Woman at the front of the field, Danica Patrick.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
I can whistle out and in. Wait, nope, failed. Sorry.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
This is NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series driver Dylan Smith, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Dylan. Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on MRN.com, and be sure you can find us on iTunes as well. All of our shows from the last 4 years have been archived there, so you don't miss a thing. I think we're on some other social platforms as well, but they tell me iTunes is the big one.
Is it?
I guess.
How big?
That big. All right, let's move along now and hear from a promoter of a racetrack, and it's one of my favorite racetracks in the country, if not the world, and I've been to a lot of them, as have you. Bowman Gray Stadium will play host to its 1,000th auto racing event this Saturday night, and the gentleman that we're going to talk to has been there for a lot of them. I don't think all of them, but a lot of them. He currently promotes the racetrack in Gray, Garrison. Gray, welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast. It's been a while since we have last chatted, and 1,000 events at Bowman Gray Stadium this Saturday night must be hard to believe.
Yeah, it really is. I appreciate y'all having us on the show. Yeah, you stand back and take a look at it, and you think, well, golly, 1,000's unreachable, but it got here quicker than we realized. And, I mean, what can you say? 1,000 events around a football field? Who would have thought that, 67 years ago?
And unfortunately, the clock is already ticking with just a couple of races left to go this year because, as you mentioned, the football field is used at the beginning of September or very close to that. So it's the beginning of the end for yet another year at Bowman Gray, but I would have to say yet another very successful year for you guys.
Yeah, we've been very blessed this year. Running the racetrack, the biggest determining factor is the weather, and weather has cooperated this year. It's kind of like a moving target for us to get the 1,000th event because you plan on it when it's going to happen in the season with no rainouts. And then you get a rainout, you start pushing back, and then another rainout, you start pushing back again. So it's been a moving target, but we're here. This Saturday night's going to be the big one, and it should be a good one because, it's a stacked deck for us. We have a ladies' night. We have twin lap 50 modified races. So it's going to be, it's just a perfect storm coming Saturday night.
This racetrack, I believe, has been in your family since the beginning. I believe it was, your grandfather, Alvin Hawkins, that teamed up with NASCAR founder Bill France Jr. and started promoting events there back in, 1949?
Yeah, that's correct, 1949. That's a little before my time. But, my grandfather, Alvin Hawkins, and Bill France Sr. were promoting racetracks all through North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia at that time. And they had this little track in it was, around a football field, as they say. And it was really designed for trying horses that ran around the track. And somebody paved it, and they said, hey, won't you go try to run a race at this paved track? Well, back in the 40s, basically everything was dirt, and that's what racing was on dirt tracks. So when they said go run a paved, they did, and it was successful, and we've been here ever since, 67 years.
And you said you haven't been there for all 67, correct? That's right. That's right now, right?
That's right.
Hey, Kyle and I have tried over the years, last 5 or 6 years, to get there, and we've just been bitten by Mother Nature as far as the elements were concerned. So we were the bad omen on some of those rainouts over the years. But earlier this year, I finally had the opportunity. I had a relative in town, and we went to Bowman Gray on a Saturday night for opening night. And I got to admit, I thought I got there early enough where I was going to be up at the front of the line or towards it, and I was just amazed when I got there to see the lines and how long they were of people trying to get in. And, of course, you have that immediate reaction, oh, God, I got to stand in line. I'm not lying. From where I was, and it was a long line, It moved so quickly, and I've got to give you credit, number one, right from there. At the gate, right at the very beginning, 4 lines going through that ticket booth. So many people are so complimentary and so nice when you go through. The second you go through, somebody's there with a souvenir program, which I think every racetrack, and there's no excuse why they shouldn't have souvenir programs if they market their facility properly. But, Gray, I found myself throughout the entire evening, I was watching the races, obviously, because I'd never been there to see races, but just fascinated by the crowd, even though I know it was opening night and it was going to be a big sellout, but just amazed by the crowd that comes in there. Pretty much, I would have to think, every Saturday night.
Yeah, we're very blessed with fans. And, those fans are, since we've been running since 1949, we have second, third, and fourth generation fans. They come early in the mornings. I usually get to a racetrack, on Saturday morning around 7:30, 8 o'clock, or sometimes earlier, depending on what's going on. But there'll be people coming into the stadium and reserving their seats that time in the morning. Before some of them go to work that day or whatever they have planned, they'll come in, spread out their blankets, 7:30, 8 o'clock on Saturday morning to get their seat on Saturday night. And I think that's what has made us so successful is, we are action-packed. I mean, we are an event. This is our 1,000th event coming up, and we treat them like an event. It is a race, but it's still an event. And we want people to have that, the aspect of like, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing, these cars go around this football field like it is. And, you stop and think about it, it is pretty amazing because I think to the horsepower to weight ratio, the modifieds are probably the most powerful cars under NASCAR sanction, if you look at it that way. And we're probably running on the smallest facility with the most powerful cars. So we're doing exactly opposite of what you should be doing, but it seems to work. So why question it, I guess?
A great show every Saturday night, and I think I read somewhere that it's also very affordable because you haven't raised ticket prices in, 15, 20 years, something like that?
I think the last time we really sat down and thought about it, I think it was like 94 when we raised ticket prices. So that's somewhat, 20 years we haven't raised the ticket prices. And this Saturday night, we're having what we call our ladies' night, which is we let half the world in for $2, and it seems like when you let that half in, the other half comes. But, go figure. So.
Well, and that's been a great promotion because you have it quite often throughout the year, and every time if Kyle hits Bowman Gray on the result category at the end of the show, he always says, "Hey, buddy, $2 ladies' night coming up." So you guys you have great promotions, but when you look around that racetrack as well, billboards everywhere. There is sponsorship out the wazoo. And one of the evenings that Kyle and I was there before it rained, I think for the longest time, Kyle, the PA announcers, and there was 2 of them up there, I think it was a lady and a gentleman at that period in time, they read sponsor announcements after sponsor announcements. It went on forever. Is this an easy track to sell sponsorships for?
Well, I wouldn't say it's easy. Nothing as easy as it looks like. I think it's just a big circle, and the circle is you have a lot of fans, and when you have a lot of fans, and we get the fans by not raising ticket prices. You have a lot of fans, when you have the fans, sponsors want to be in front of fans. Cars want to be in front of fans, and drivers can get sponsors for their cars. So it's this big circle, and you don't want to break the circle in any way. You want the fans, you need the cars, you need the sponsors, and put the whole package together, and it'll work. But if you break one link in that chain, then you're gonna stumble just a little bit. So you have to stand back and say, well, okay, what's good for everybody? And when we get sponsors, we're a family-run business. I just happen to be the 3rd generation, and my job is not to screw it up at this point in time. But my uncle, aunts, my wife, my daughters are involved, cousins. It's just a big family organization, and we all every year step back and take a look. What can we do to improve? What can we do to improve? We could probably sell 1 million billboards if we wanted to, but that's not what we're about. When we get a sponsor, we want something in it for the drivers. We want something in it for the fans. We want something in it for us, of course, the track and the sponsor. So everybody's got to get just a little something out of it to make it work, and that's kind of the magic that's kept it going.
Amen. A lot of, I agree with everything he's been saying.
Gray's out there on the pulpit right now.
As somebody,
don't ask me a question if you don't want to answer.
Yeah. I've worked behind the scenes at short tracks for a number of years, and he just hit the nail on the head and what it takes to make a successful short track. And you kind of touched on it about what you guys can do to make it better. What is next, or has been a big key in success for Bowman Gray? Has been not a lot of changes year in and year out, but do we expect any major changes or shakeups for 2016?
I don't think we stay pretty steady as the course, and I think that's one good thing about running for 67 years. A lot of things have been tried, and we've tried to figure out what doesn't work. And I think that's what we've kind of kept in the back pocket is what doesn't work. Why didn't it work? And maybe bring them back out, dust them off, balls off, and figure out why it didn't work and try to make it happen. But for 2016, I think we're steady as the course. We've had some new programs this year with some Colors Edge Challenge, which is a sponsor came on board and gave the drivers the option to start in the rear and go to the front. He gets back to the front and gets bonus money. Hopefully we can expand on that in 2016. We're going through a transition with the city now and to the local university, and we should be good for the long haul when this transition takes place. We're looking probably at a new 25, 30-year lease agreement, so that's just going to have us covered. I'll be long gone before then. But, it's pretty much steady as the course, and if it's not broke, why try to fix something that's not broke?
Absolutely, and you guys have got great car counts in every division of racing that you have. Very successful when the K&N Pro Series East and the NASCAR Wheel and Soda Modified Tour come there, which are two of your biggest events. We mentioned the Colors Ed Challenge, the $2 Ladies Night deal, but over the course of history that you've been there, can you figure out what has been pretty much from your position, your most memorable moment out of Bowman Gray?
My most memorable, golly, there's so many of them. It's hard to imagine. I mean, I think one of the most memorable things is, a few years ago we had the TV show The Madhouse, and that was on the History Channel. And I think that was just fantastic for weekly racing across the board because everybody realized, hey, there's a weekly racetrack in my backyard just like Bowman Gray, part of that Wheeling All-American Series. And I think it brought so much light to the weekly racing program that is very memorable because our attendance did tick up significantly, and every promoter across the country I talked to said, hey, our attendance is up because of that TV show. Our car counts are up because it brought it such to the light, to the forefront. Hey, there's this gigantic program out there in, 80, 90 neighborhoods across the country in this program. And that's what I remember the most is everybody how happy and how successful the other tracks were from that show. And, of course, we were successful, too. And, hey, we were on TV. What more can you ask for, right?
Got a lot of people's attention, including mine, no doubt. To bounce off a buddy's question of your most memorable moment, do you remember the first time you went to Bowman Gray Stadium, maybe probably as a kid, and your first memories of that famed racetrack?
Yeah, I mean, I was just a small kid back when they were doing it. And you mentioned the program earlier. And, being a family business, there was always lots of cousins and everybody running around. And we used to sell programs. And I think at that point in time, we got 3 cents for every program we sold. Well, I was the younger of the cousins. And my older cousins, they all got to work the gates when people stepped in the gate. They were selling programs. Well, they give me a handful of programs, say, you go out through the stands and see what you can sell. Well, after about the 4th or 5th week, I thought, well, I'm not selling anything. And then finally, it dawned on me. They were selling and getting all the sales at the gate, and they were just getting rid of me walking through the things where everybody already had one. So I said, the heck with that. I'm going to go a different route. So then I went parking cars in the parking lot, so go figure. So,
oh, wow.
But I will remember that. And in the older days, back when I was 7, 8 years old, when my grandfather was alive, I remember riding around in the pickup truck with him. And it was just amazing to see the competitors. It didn't dawn at the time. These guys are future Hall of Famers. The Hall of Fame didn't exist at that time. But, I remember when I was real small and saw Ned Jarrett come in to run a Grand National race at that time. And he had a car on a rollback and pulling one on a trailer. And that was just awesome. I'd never seen a guy that had 2 race cars. I mean, that was just unbelievable. And then you can progress on to the years with Hall of Famers Rickey Evans and Jerry Cook coming down there to race. So there's just so many people that you took it for granted. If you stop and take a look back, hey, we were really blessed to have those people race with us. I mean, really blessed.
And, and even though I was there on opening night, so I expected everybody to pretty much stay from beginning to end because they were getting through the winter doldrums and finally got to get to a racetrack. I was still very impressed, and I got to believe this happens during the course of the year. Say the modifieds are number 2 on your race card for the night. You got 5 divisions of racing. Say you have 3 lower divisions still left to go. I am very impressed with the support by the crowd of the lower divisions. Nobody goes anywhere. They stay until that last checkered flag drops. That says a lot about the support, even the lower divisions, which are the bread and butter classes that this crowd gives them.
Yeah, and I think we can attribute that to because we are very sticklers for starting on time. We start at 8 o'clock, and that green flag better be throwing at 8 o'clock. You see me running up down the hall screaming at people, why not, why not, why not? So I think that's very important. And also get done at a quick time. We try to be done by 10:30 with our last race, 10:30 at night. So people's attention spans, you can see it from movies and all other forms of entertainment, is about 2.5 hours. 3 at the most. So that's what we try to do is keep it action-packed for that 2.5, 3 hours, keep things rolling, keep them moving. And people can get done at a decent time so they can afford, they can take the luxury of staying watching all the races because they're going to get out at a decent time, get up and go to church next day. So I think that's one reason everybody just kind of hangs around because we do keep the show moving.
Kyle, did you get up and go to church after the last time you were at Bowman Gray? I want to know the truth now, son. You got to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Gray, if you could only see the look on that face.
That was real convincing.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Best of luck to you this weekend. Congratulations on all the success the track has had for 57 years now, and I can't wait to get back out there here. I think we're able to go on championship night here in a couple of weeks, so hopefully we'll see you out there and enjoy the 1,000th event for Bowman Gray Stadium this Saturday.
Thank you so much, and I think we started this conversation that when y'all come, y'all bring rain. So if you want to skip that last race, it won't come up.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can break that jinx here.
I broke it at the beginning of the year, Gray. I promise. I did,
okay,
so I'm clean and green.
You're welcome to come then.
Gray Garrison joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, the promoter of Bowman Gray Stadium. What a great facility. I wish, obviously our travel schedules don't allow us with the Motor Racing Network to get there every Saturday night, but we can get there a couple of times a year. And that K&N race a couple of weeks ago, I was able to get there, and you were able to go on opening night. Hopefully, I think we can go in a couple of weeks for championship night.
Well, I think I'm doing something that weekend. I know I'm free, but I have a feeling I've already made other plans. I shouldn't have said that.
That's fine. I see where this is going.
Hey, Tim Brown with only a 14-point edge over Burt Myers, and I would have to say for opening night at least, Burt Myers got the biggest reception as far as positive. You got your yays and boos for a lot of different drivers, and it was kind of interesting as a fan to sit back and say, okay, well, what do they think of the Myers brothers? What do they think of Tim Brown? What do they think of Junior Miller, who's been there for many years, and even going to the lower divisions? The crowd is so into it at that racetrack. It's so cool. You know
the driver that gets all the applause up north?
I have a feeling I know.
He's going to join us after the break. Ryan Preece comes up next here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
Both wins. Eric Jones was the man behind the wheel for both of them.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday with Woody Kane and Joey Meyer.
Eric, I guess you kind of got tired of all those people here saying, when's he going to win?
Yeah, I guess so. It's kind of things coming around and starting to go the right way for us. Definitely wasn't easy, and it was a long journey over the last month to get to this point, try to figure out how we needed to get to victory lane. So it definitely feels good to get there and finally get some wins.
MRN Motorsports Monday, every Monday at noon at MRN.com. Join the Motor Racing Network this Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. Your host, Eli Gold, along with weekly guests, tackle the latest storylines with our NASCAR Live Fast Forum.
Oh, I totally disagree with Rickey on that. I think the test...
We've got your favorite drivers one-on-one.
I think everybody was more stressed out going into Phoenix just because you knew that...
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
This is NASCAR Canadian Tire Series driver Erica Thiering, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Erica. We'll see her in a couple of weeks when we head up to the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That's when the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series will be in action with the NASCAR Camping World Truck doubleheader in just 2 weeks from now. Talked about Southern Modifieds a little bit ago with Gray Garrison from Bowman Gray Stadium. Let's talk about the Northern Modifieds now, and Ryan Preece, the big winner of the Call Before You Dig 150 last Friday night at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Third win of the season after starting from 15th. Doesn't sound like it was an easy one for you, Ryan.
They never are.
That's
but
true.
I know you and Buddy are turning into comedians saying I get all the applause up north now. Seems like I'm the villain up here now. So
and why are you the villain?
Fun, and it was good to get that team to victory lane on Friday.
Why are you the villain all of a sudden? Who made you the villain now?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe you got to ask Jeff Gordon the same thing why he became the villain.
That's true. Talk about the race. Started 15th, made it up to the race lead, and I understand I haven't seen all the highlights yet, but once you got out front, you were able to put a couple of car lengths between yourself and the rest of the field.
Yeah, we had a real strong car. Unfortunately, we went out first in qualifying, and Stafford, going into qualifying, I had high hopes of still being able to get the pole, but no, it was real difficult. So the track was pretty dirty, and I was pretty happy with the lap we put down, and we were able to start 15th. So it made for an interesting night, but I think in the end it helped us because I could see the cars that were in front of me where they were better and where I needed to be better. So we came in, I told Tommy, what we needed, and he knew exactly where to give it to me. So we had a real strong car in the second half of the race, and that's definitely what won us the race.
And by virtue of that, it puts you back atop the point standings, which has been very seesaw or very tight coming into the event. Woody had about a 3-point edge over you. You now are up by 4. And it looks like if the trend continues, and I have a feeling it probably will, with the remaining handful of races left to go, you guys are going to bring this right down to the wire.
Yeah, it's definitely been a seesaw for sure, more this year than it has other years. But it's not just Woody and me. It's going to be Doug Coby too, and Todd Zegedy, I have a feeling, because those 4 cars have all been strong. We've all had our bad race pretty much, and we just gotta, me and Tommy and Eddie and Connie, the whole TS Haulers team, we just gotta continue on what we've been doing the past few weeks and making the car better and better, and hopefully winning some more races and win this championship.
Now, I have a feeling it may come down, and just looking at some of the numbers here, to bonus points for those race wins. I'm looking at average finishes right now. You're averaging 4.7, worst finished 10th at Monadnock a couple of weeks ago. Woody's averaging 3.6.
Wow.
So those bonus points may go a long way in determining this championship.
Absolutely. I knew that a couple of years ago when I was racing with Doug for the championship. It really makes a big difference, and that's one thing that when we were starting 15th, I was kind of like hoping Bobby or one of those guys were going to lead some laps because I didn't want anybody to take the bonus points, and it ended up being that we were able to do max points there at Stafford, but it's very crucial. It can really save you if you have a halfway decent race and make up for that. So that's going to be a huge thing when it comes down to this championship.
A lot of hard work done by you and your team, not just on the Whelen Modified Tour, but there's so many drivers, I would say, that are so envious or wish they could be in your shoes. And, of course, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication because you go beyond the tour. You look at the battle on Friday nights at the SK Mods at Stafford Motor Speedway. You've been in a battle royale with Rowan Pennick, Justin Bonsignor, and a ton of other drivers, including Ronnie Williams, who's done very well out there. You got the battle going at Riverhead. You run occasionally when Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park is running and doing very well. And now, as Kyle and I alluded to earlier in the show, a very tight battle in this NASCAR Whelen All-American Series Championship. Smelling some of the blood in the water a little bit as far as trying to catch Keith Rocco?
I don't know. It's pretty difficult to say just because, at the beginning of the year, I even said I'm not running for the national points. I'm just racing weekly, and it's going to be really difficult just because we don't get the car count, and I don't think a lot of people throughout the country get the car count. So wherever the guys that do get car count and win races, those are the guys that are going to win that national deal. And is it possible? Yes, but my focus isn't on that. My focus is trying to win this tour championship, trying to win the Stafford championship, trying to win Thompson's championship, and then trying to win races at Riverhead. And if everything falls the way it needs to and I have full fields and I'm winning those races and we end up winning the national championship, that would be great. But I'm not going to bring some starting parts to the racetrack or anything like that trying to do it. It's really just going to come down to trying to win some races and capitalize with what we got. We have really good race cars, but it's really difficult because if you do bring starting parts and then that guy wins the race, then you help him, and it's just if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm happy with just trying to win these races and win these championships.
let's talk about something else that you're going to be occupied doing here in the next couple of weeks, and that is making your NASCAR Sprint Cup Series debut with Tommy Baldwin Racing. Obviously, I guess this started, prior to the race at Stafford, in a joking matter, according to the article I read on racedayct.com with Sean Corshane, and 24 hours later became a reality.
Yeah, well, I joke with Tommy quite a bit. We text quite a bit and joke with each other. But so we were texting each other on Friday, and I said, put me in a Cup car. And then, I said, if I win on Friday, you should put me in a Cup car, like joking with him, and he joked back. And then, after the race, I won, so I texted him. I said, Cup car. And then he joked back, and I said to him, I thought you saw the light, and obviously he joked back again. And then all of a sudden, I wake up the next day. I'm on my way to Riverhead. I have a text message from him saying that he made a deal with Jay Robinson with the 98 car to have that number, and it's going to be a TBR car, all done out of TBR, and so it's a pretty cool deal. And it's definitely not a start and park. We're going to run the whole race, and we're going to try and do the best we can and have a good time.
That event being the Sylvania 300 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway coming up on September the 27th. We've seen you have the opportunity with some Xfinity Series races with Tommy, and so good to see you get that the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series chance. As we mentioned earlier, we were talking with Greg Garrison at Bowman Gray Stadium and talking about some fantastic years of racing out there. You had yourself a pretty wild run there just a couple of weekends ago. The Southern Modified Tour was there, won the pole, had some tire issues, but what a run. You gave the fans their money's worth, coming from the tail end of the field all the way back to battle Danny Bone for that victory.
I just, honestly, I just like going to Bowman Gray. I don't know if I'd like racing there weekly just because I see the rivalries that go on, and I'd rather be the guy looking at them instead of being in them, but it's definitely a place you got to go and race at. It's really crazy the amount of fans that are there and how into it they get. And I was just kind of, when I was riding around in caution, just kind of looking at everybody in the stands and watching what they were doing when their driver went by or the driver they hated went by, and it was just kind of cool to be a part of it. And then obviously doing everything I could to get our car back to the front.
See, that's where you got the flat tire. You ran over some piece of debris, didn't you? When you were watching the crowd under caution, you ran over a piece of debris, and that gave you the flat tire, didn't it?
That had to be it, for sure. Now everybody's going to be saying that. But now we had a really strong race car, and it kind of sucks now just when I watch the race and that last restart and just kind of how I guess I could have done something different to move them out of the way, but I wasn't going to quite do that. So it was good finishing second, and I'll be back next year to try and do it again.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you down here. Look forward to seeing what you can do tomorrow night at the Thompson Speedway, the next stop for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. Thanks for joining us. By the way, how was your trip to where did you go, to the zoo the other day following the race at Riverhead?
You're a little off. It was an aquarium.
An aquarium,
yeah, it was
sorry.
A lot of fun.
Zoo, aquarium.
I like sharks.
Oh, well, whatever. I mean, I saw the pictures. It looked like you were at a zoo, but whatever.
You're close.
Good luck tomorrow night at Thompson, and maybe we'll be talking again next week.
Yeah, maybe. And obviously, thank you to East West Marine and TS Haulers and all our sponsors that help us get to the races, Racing Electronics, SK Rodents, Goodrich Racing Lines, Pergola Performance, everybody that's involved, and maybe I'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it. A lot of people behind Ryan Preece and all of his success, coming off a win last week at the Stafford Motor Speedway, running for that national championship.
Yeah, he is.
No
He
doubt.
knows he is. Don't you hide that, Ryan. We know you are. But, no, very good shot at Thompson. And remember last year when he ran at Bristol, he and Woody, unintentional contact between the two, I think, coming off the second turn, which sent Ryan to the back of the field. But he had a very good car last year and did a very good job of working his way back up towards the front. So he's going to be one to be reckoned with at Bristol, and that's a great opportunity where we get to see the East and, of course, or I should say the North and the South guys all mixed in there together, which is one of the wild card races in the battle for each championship.
It's next Wednesday night at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Buddy and I will be there prior to the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race. And, of course, before then, we'll talk about all the results and happenings at Thompson Speedway tomorrow night. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Watkins Glen race last week. In fact, the race winner, Scott Heckert, for the second year in a row, will join us here in studio. But before that, let's take a moment and get to know some of the stars of NASCAR's regional series a little closer as we go off the wall.
JJ Haley, what question do you hate to answer? that Yaley question. If I get asked if I'm related to J.J. Yaley or Cameron Haley, definitely one that I get asked quite a bit.
Doug Covey, if you could do anything in the world outside of racing, what would it be?
If I was good at singing, I would be an entertainer of some sort. I'm awful at singing, and I would never even offer a sample because I'm that bad. But I think like that lifestyle would be really cool, and that's something I like to be on stage. You know, I like to be in front of people, and that would be exciting. I mean, I do have a pretty cool job now, flipping houses. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people love doing, and I love doing it. So I'd like to be something that would make me a billionaire. So if it had to be whatever it had to be, if that led me down that path, I'd be happy.
Scott Heckert, one person that you would like to meet and have a conversation with.
Mark Donahue. He's, well, I guess not alive anymore, but he was an engineer and a racer back in the 70s and raced some pretty cool cars, and I'd like to talk to him about his experiences.
Justin Bonsignor, in school, your favorite and least favorite class? Gym doesn't count.
What about lunch? I liked English, hated math, and then I was dumb enough to try and become a mechanical engineer, so it didn't work out too well.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
The road to victory lane isn't just for drivers anymore. Introducing the official daily fantasy game of NASCAR at DraftKings.com, America's favorite daily fantasy sports site. Just pick a team of 5 drivers and stay under the salary cap. Outscore your opponents and win. Hurry to DraftKings.com now and use promo code COAST to play for free. You could win part of the $1 billion in prizes being awarded this year. Enter COAST to play for free now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Hi, this is Eli Gold, the host of NASCAR Live. We've been taking your calls every Tuesday night for over 30 years, but now you don't have to wait for Tuesday. Call Motor Racing Network's fan hotline at 844-4-ASK-MRN.
I think Kyle Busch should be able to step right in and run for the championship if he gets a win. Just like any other sports figure, they're out for part of the season because of an injury. They come in, they win the championship, they win the trophy.
Be a part of the voice of NASCAR. Call 844-4-ASK-MRN.
Hi, this is NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour driver Melissa Fifield, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Melissa. She was in action last Friday night at the Stafford Motor Speedway, and we'll be back in action this coming Wednesday night at Thompson with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. One driver in action very successfully last Friday night at Watkins Glen International, and it was night. I think the sun was way beyond the horizon when you guys took the checkered flag. Scott Heckert joins us. Second year in a row, you picked up the win at Watkins Glen. Congratulations. To kind of bring us through the 125-mile event.
Yeah, it was an awesome race. Good to go back-to-back. And, yeah, like I said, the sun was in our eyes for about half the race. But by the last 10 or 20 laps, it was getting dark.
Mm-hmm.
The tinted shields were getting hard to see out of. But it was just a very caution-filled race to start off with. Kind of amped up the aggression a little bit on those restarts, and but once we got out in the lead, we had a very, very dominant car. So just looking forward to that. You know, had a lot of green flag late in the race and helped us win. And
we go back to the event at Iowa Speedway where you did very well. Could that be kind of listed as the turning point for you in your run for the championship, especially with such a good run this past weekend, and knowing what you have in front of you are attainable victories again?
Yeah, Iowa was big for us. We probably didn't have the best car there. We had some struggles in practice. We actually blew a motor in practice, so lost a lot of practice time changing that motor out. But had a decent car, and just actually at one point in the race, it looked like we were going to lose some points in the championship, but we kept fighting and ended up actually with a really good points day and a solid, I think, eighth place finish. So that really triggered us into these past couple races, gaining a lot of points on the championship lead.
Watkins Glen last week, I was trying to watch via the internet, and I kept seeing caution. A lot of blown engines early on. I believe Sarah Cornett-Ching lost an engine lap 1. There was another lost engine very quickly thereafter. Frustrating as a driver, wanting to get going. You know, you go through all the pre-race hype, and then you ride, I think, the first 20% of the race, for the most part, under the yellow flag.
It was very frustrating. And I think the main reason why was we started third, qualified third, but I felt like we had a much better race car than that, which showed very early on. We were already pressuring for second and then pressuring for the lead rather quickly. So really I wanted to see it go green long enough at least to grab the lead. I didn't want to see the repetitive cautions because things were so crazy on those restarts. It was hard to gain position because you're so focused on not losing any. So yeah, it was frustrating, those cautions early on.
This series has had such strong turnover. I mean, and for good reasons. Drivers come in, they do very well. They move to other forms of motorsports, or opportunities work well for other drivers to come in. But through it all, you have been there and you've been such the constant, at least on the road courses. You've done very well, obviously, winning Bowman Gray. And you've got, I guess, the complete package when it comes to your diversity. Short tracks, road courses, medium racetracks. What's been the key to be able to come back to a road course, knowing you got the good notes, and still be just as successful the next year?
Yeah, I guess it just, like you said, it was notes. We spent a lot of time looking back on our setup from last year. Actually changed it a fair amount from the previous year, just to adapt to the way the track changed. But yeah, with the new guys coming in too, you had some young guns. Dalton Sargent was very fast. Austin Hill kind of been around for just as long as I have. Cole Custer came and did the race. They were all fast. So just got to prepare yourself to outlast them, and it's all about preparation.
You mentioned Dalton Sargent. He came in with a lot of road racing experience overseas. A year ago at this time, before these road course wins, how much road racing experience did you have? Would you have considered yourself a road racing expert?
Not an expert. I think sometimes it's blown a little out of proportion. When I was 15 or 16 years old, I did some Skip Barber racing, which is really my only background. I did some go-karts, but as far as full-size cars, really K&N Series has been my first foray into really competitive racing on road courses. It seems to fit my style pretty well. Like you say, we've been running really well on the ovals as well. Led some laps there, but something about those road courses just seemed to fit.
I may put you on the spot when I ask you this, but do you have, since you're there with the Xfinity and the Sprint Cup Series this past weekend, and you've done so well the last couple of years on road courses, do you have, whether it be a driver, crew chief, crew members, or somebody from higher teams coming to you kind of picking your brain, like, what's your success around this place, and can you help us out a little bit?
Well, definitely. I think we've had some drivers come up to me and talking a lot from the K&N Series. It's the kind of garage where it's very competitive, but some of these guys haven't seen road courses before. Daniel Hemrick, who I've probably been on your show before, very successful short track racer, successful in the Cape World Truck Series. I helped him out a little bit, and he was strong as always. And just anytime you show exceptional strength, people tend to gravitate and ask you questions.
How closely are you watching this championship battle? 29 points between you and William 2 races ago. Now it's down to 14. You've cut it in half here the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore. It really is. You got to think about it. It's reality. There's 4 races to go. It's no time to pretend you're thinking about getting each race done. It's all about the race for the championship. Like you said, it's cut more than in half in the past couple weeks, and I think we have a really strong car. All these tracks coming up have been good to us. Motordrome, we've never been there, but our short track package has been great, as has Williams. But and then you look at VAR, another road course that we won on last year, and Richmond, Dover, places I have experience at. So, I'm very confident heading forward that at least we're gonna have a shot these last 4 races. We've put ourselves in a good enough position that we're gonna at least contest for it.
Now, I'm going to take you back to a weekend that you wanted to forget, and you probably already have since you're sitting where you are right now. But early in the year, a rough outing at Greenville Pickens. Did you ever think, with a wreck race car in the pits that night so early in the night, in the season, that you guys would be able to rebound, knowing the level of competition you have on this series? It's not only very good, but also very consistent and hard to climb back up through those standings.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be a rough night for us to get by. Like you say, we were probably running, I think, 6th or 7th at the time, and ended up finishing 25th with a wrecked race car. And having nights like that makes it very hard to come back. But out of the 10 races so far, we finished in the top 5 7 times, top 10, I think, 8 or 9 times. So it's just every other race, when you have an event like that, you have to be consistent. And that's what we focused on, is just kind of forgetting where we were in the points then and just rattling off top 5 finishes, and slowly you see yourself move from, I was probably 10th in the point standing to fourth to to third, and then you're back in it. So it's hard to forget because you think, well, if that hadn't happened, we'd be leading the points right now. But other people have had bad luck, and that's how you get back in it.
Let's talk about the next couple of weeks. You mentioned 4 races left. Next 2 want to focus on. We don't know much about Motordrome Speedway. I don't know how much studying you've done about the place. And then got to be excited to get back to VIR, the next road course, track in which you've done well at again in the past.
Yeah, Motordrome, I only watched videos. Never seen it in person, never drove on it. Not even, iRacing hasn't modeled it yet, so can't even do that. But I've heard it's a little bumpy, has some character, has a couple grooves of racing. So really, it sounds like a great little short track. I'm excited to go. We have a Friday test day, which is actually a little rare for our series. So get a chance to go out for 3-4 hours and see what the track's like. But it should be a good race. And then VIR, like you said, that's another chance for us. One of definitely our strong suits to maybe close that gap a little bit even more in the points.
So one of the drivers you got to go talk to, we said it at the top of the broadcast, is Gary Wiltrout, who's just been plucking victories off at late model competition out there all season long. Has 94 career wins, I believe. Has a chance to hit the century mark this year.
Wow.
So you got to go talk to Gary Wiltrout or Bobby Hendry. They're 2 of the best in the business there.
Wow, maybe I'll put them in the car.
There you go.
The team itself, your top 3 podium finish last week at Watkins Glen. What has been key to the strength of this team? 5 full-time cars in the series, and they're all up there contending each and every week.
Yeah, I mean, you pair it with a great team. Yep. The people have stayed consistent for the past 3 years. So everyone works around each other really well, talking about the crew chiefs and the crew. And then you pair it with really talented drivers. I think you go up and down our roster of drivers, and it's hard to find one that's has a weak spot. So as far as young drivers go, I think we have the 5 best, and the crew guys work their tails off getting those cars ready more harder than any other team works. And when you pair that too, it's hard to beat. Road courses we go to very, very similar setups. Ovals we have a little more freedom, but road courses we go very similar and just try to build off each other.
When you have so many collective groups in under one roof, is it the responsibility of the crew chief solely to make sure everybody's getting along with this team, or does it go higher up the food chain and you have one person overall that's trying to make it work collectively with these 5 teams that really has to try and hold it all together?
Yeah, well, speaking of that, there is one person, Mike Rickey, I'm sure you guys seen around the pits and has been around the sport for a very long time, is our one guy who just keeps it all glued together. He's, I guess, team manager or head guy, whatever you want to call his official term. He really makes sure all the 5 teams are working well together, make sure they're sharing notes, and the drivers are getting along well as a whole other host of responsibilities. So he's definitely an integral part of the team, and without him, I don't think it would be as successful as it is.
Of course, talking about H. Scott Motorsports with Justin Marks. Justin, of course, will be with us this weekend in Mid-Ohio running the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. Do you think it's easier or maybe more difficult and challenging running against your teammates for this championship?
It's definitely challenging. I mean, William's a great kid. I really like him, and if he was racing anyone else, I'd really like to see him do well. For us, we definitely want to go out and beat him. On track, you want to race them as hard as you can because you have to. You have to fend for your own 34 guys who I've become like family. So you race hard for them, but you can't wreck your teammate. You can't put anyone else in the shop at risk. So it's tough racing against them, but we get along so well. It's worked out really well this year.
It creates a great maturation process for you as well as you try to continue to climb up the ladder, knowing that's a very tough position to be in. That'll mature a driver very quickly. But getting back to the Justin Marks deal, has it gotten to the point where he's asking you, hey, I'm heading to Mid-Ohio, I need some tips?
Justin hasn't called me yet. He hasn't asked for anything. But hey, Justin, I'm ready if he needs some coaching. But he's a great road course racer in his own right. So I think he'll do just fine out there.
Scott, as always, thanks for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Thanks for coming in, being our first in-studio guest here in our new digs here at the Motor Racing Network.
You touched me one more time. I'm sorry.
It's close quarters here as well. And look forward to seeing you here in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. My pleasure, and love the new digs.
There we go. Scott Heckert joining us, winner last week at Watkins Glen for the 2nd week in a row. We're back to wrap things up in a minute.
Coming on back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast. It's Kyle, Rickey, and Buddy Long right after this.
Don't miss your chance to enter the O'Reilly Auto Parts $10,000 payment payoff sweepstakes powered by Castrol Edge. You could win a grand prize of $10,000 toward paying off your vehicle. But hurry, sweepstakes ends August 25th. Visit O'ReillySweeps.com for full details. No purchase necessary. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This is Steve Post.
And I'm Kendra Jacobs.
Join us every Saturday morning at 9:30 Eastern Time for MRN's Wing Nation on MAV TV.
We'll talk with the biggest names in wing sprint car racing, from the world of outlaws to your local wing sprint car track. We cover it all.
Plus, we'll preview each weekend's biggest wing sprint car races from around the country.
MRN's Wing Nation, 9:30 Eastern Time, Saturday mornings on MAV TV.
If you don't get MAV TV, go to getmavtv.com to find your local TV provider and let them know you want MAV TV.
This is NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Here's Kyle and Buddy.
Rolling along here, in fact, wrapping up another edition of NASCAR Coast to Coast. And again, we thank you for tuning in every Tuesday, or find us on demand at iTunes. And want to try something new this week. If you listen to our broadcasts on the Motor Racing Network.
Who wouldn't?
Exactly. Our Sprint Cup broadcast, you hear about the new Fan Forum Hotline. Well, we want to get our NASCAR Coast to Coast listeners involved.
Absolutely.
We want to know, and you call 844-4-ASK-MRN. Got the graphic right up there for you. And if you don't know how to use the letters, it's 844-427-5676. We want to hear from our listeners and want to know what their favorite NASCAR home track is to go to and why.
Oh, I thought it was going to be one of those. Does Buddy Long look as good as he sounds?
Maybe next week.
No, well, we're not even going there. We
Maybe
know we got a
next
face.
week.
I got a face for radio. We know that.
So give us a call. What is your favorite NASCAR home track to attend as a fan or maybe a participant?
What's yours?
And why? Oh, I can't say on that. Can I say?
You can whisper it to me.
Stop.
All right, I heard it.
So 844-ASK or 844-4-ASK-MRN, 844-427-5676. Give us a call. We'll play back next week some of our best responses from our listeners that call in.
You had one too many fours in there.
No, 844-4.
Okay.
There's 3, 4.
Just want you to do it again.
Robbie, put it back up again. Now you can confuse people. Let's talk about some results here from this past week. A lot going on around the world of NASCAR short track racing. Colorado, I'll start there. Colorado National Speedway in Daytona. Dominic Ursader won for the 5th straight week in the Super Late Model Division. They are back in action this Saturday night featuring the Pro Truck Series.
A lot of tracks are getting down to the final few events. Motor Mile Speedway, Lee Pulliam picked up his 8th win in 10 races. He leads Matt Bowling by 78 points. With just 2 races left to go.
We talked about it a bit earlier. Stafford Speedway in Connecticut, Rowan Pennick picked up win number 6 in the SK Modified this season. In late models, it was Michael Bennett taking down the race win. And at the Waterford Speed Bowl the next night, Tyler Chadwick won the SK Modified event.
Leon Gagnon took the C.J. Richards Memorial at Devil's Bowl Speedway. Meanwhile, it was Craig Von Doren taking the Forrest Rogers Memorial at Grandview in the 358s.
There we go. Magic Valley Speedway in Idaho, Russell Dalton picked up the Super Stock win. They're back in action this week featuring sprint cars, and just like that, time is up. Jason Myers won at Bowman Gray. I think we covered that earlier today.
Lee Jeffries, the other winner. Justin Marks may be going to Mid-Ohio, but so is the Buddy Long Kyle Rickey train.
Going to be fun. Going to be a fun weekend. I want to thank Garrison, Ryan Preece, and Scott Heckert for joining us. For Daryl Smith, our producer, Robbie Mays with all of our graphics, Buddy Long, Kyle Rickey. We'll see you back here next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
You've been listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast. Tune in next Wednesday at 1 Eastern for more talk from local tracks all over America. NASCAR Coast to Coast is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.